Hey, everyone. Welcome to Church Online. Thank you for letting us into your home, into your living room, wherever you're watching from. So today, Becky and I, we are joined by some friends, some wonderful people from our church that we love dearly, and we are engaging in the conversation. And here's what we want you to know. We're talking today. This is our last installment of our series called Listen, Lead, and Love. And today we're talking about something that up until 1967 was illegal in this nation. Today we're talking about interracial marriages, the struggles, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it, but mostly the beauty of it. And so please welcome our folks, our friends, Ron and Rocio Jennings, and we have John and Silvana Jackson, and Marcus and Andrea Gibbons.
It's like a game show.
Yeah. Welcome, guys. Welcome so much. Thank you for joining us. Well, listen, we're going to start out and ask a couple questions. And I think what I'll do is we're going to defer to the senior most couple of our group. And we're going to say, hey, guys, Jacksons, tell us your story. Tell us how you guys met.
How long you've been married to?
Yeah, how long you've been married and how many kids? Yes.
We've been married for 15 years, together for 20. John was stationed in Germany, where I was born and grew up. And we had the same coach. I played softball, he played basketball, and he introduced us. I think it was love for him at first sight.
Yeah.
So it was love at first sight for him.
Maybe. I don't remember.
She don't remember.
I don't remember
it's like,
him.
Like I drugged her or something. I don't remember.
But it was like I had two jobs. I was really busy. I didn't have no head for guys, and so my coach stopped by at my second job with a bunch of basketball guys. John being one of them. So I remember them stopping by, but I don't.
Oh, but she watering it down. Hold on, wait. When we went to meet her, so we went there for me to meet her with all the players. Now think about it. All the players are white. I'm the only black guy there. Now you can say that one black guy you can remember, right? So I'm clean, man. You know how we do, Ron? You know, we clean up, man. You know, I'm smelling good. Got my rings. I got my jacket on. I'm looking good. I'm like, hi, I'm John. She's like, what you want to order? So I'm like, man, that was my best shot. So
I was at work. I was busy. I had no time for this.
You were focused. You were on task. Now Silvana's from Germany. John, you're from home sweet
Birmingham, Alabama.
Two different worlds. And you were on base there. You were in the Army, correct?
Correct.
You're in the Army, and that's how you met your wife. All right, we're going to jump around because we'll come back. We've got other questions. Let's go on to Marcus and Andrea. Why don't you tell us how you guys, what's your story?
So my story is probably different than hers, right? We'll keep it short. Basically, we were going to the same church. We were going to the same school. It's kind of funny because that day that I actually met Andrea, I intended on introducing myself to someone that was not Andrea. So God had another plan. Mm-hmm. I went to church that day. I was like, okay, we're going to introduce. And I don't know if I got cold feet or it was the Holy Spirit that came over me and said, no, that's not the one, whatever it was. Either way, a mutual friend, introduced Andrea to myself. So that got the gears going. Oh, yeah. Okay. And
wait, how long have you guys been married?
We have been married
14. Well, it will be 14.
It will be 14 years.
14 years. And so, Andrea, is the story pretty accurate?
Yeah.
Because I kind of saw you be like, wait a minute.
I was confused. I couldn't remember who introduced us, but now I do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But someone introduced you guys.
Yeah.
So, was it love at first sight, and for who?
Well, I wouldn't say love, but like I thought he was hot. You know.
Oh. Whoa.
Oh, Marcus.
So yeah, we and I saw her at college. We were both going to MCC at the same time. So we met at church. I tried to pursue her at school, and it's funny, the day that it was the following week that I actually was introduced to Andrea. I decided I was going to try and find her at school. I could not find this girl anywhere. I saw her everywhere before that. But now that I want to go up and meet her, I couldn't find her anywhere.
He was hiding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Monday goes by, I'm in class. I go to her hangout spot. She's not there. Tuesday, she's not there. Wednesday, and now I'm like, okay, this girl does not go to the school. Whatever it is, I'm starting to get a little upset. So I caught myself.
So you thought I was lying?
Well, either that or you dropped out.
Yeah.
No. Just kidding. But anyways, that day I'm pursuing Andrea and I could not find her anywhere. So I'm getting frustrated. And all of a sudden I came to myself, I said, all right, forget it. God, if Andrea's the one who's supposed to be in my life, then you're gonna bring her by my path or we'll cross paths again. I left it alone. I'm not even exaggerating. It was about 2 minutes later when I ran into Andrea in the hallway. So I got a number and we just started dating.
The rest is history.
Wow.
Love it.
Now,
8 months and married for 13.
14 years.
Amazing.
So here we go now. We're going to the senator from Jacksonville, to Ron Rocio. You guys have quite an interesting story. Why don't you tell us how you guys met?
You want to tell her? Okay. So I tell you the short version. She can give you the high definition extended version. But for time's sake, we'll do my version. So let's see. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. She is from Lima, Peru. So just to kind of preface this, we did not know each other at all. We had no contact. And what she did, she had a women's, missionary group and, Bible studies and organization. And she was, I guess, just looking on Facebook at different conferences. And I was speaking at this conference. It was a double conference, one for men, one for women. And she found me, through Facebook. So this was back in 2013. So she reached out to me. No, it wasn't that.
Back it up. Let's tell that story.
This is where the truth gets tangled up.
Oh, okay.
So you requested me.
I request you and 40 other people.
Okay, that's what I said. She requested me and all these other people from the conference. So I didn't accept the request. I did an investigation because when I clicked on the
He was
profile,
going through my pictures.
because the whole catfishing thing and all that, I was like, oh, I ain't getting caught up with
And
that.
since he's so hot, he thought he was getting catfish.
So, so basically, I went through all the pictures to see if they were real pictures. It looked like a real profile, so I messaged her. I think I asked, do you live here or something like that?
Hey, do I know you from a business conference or something like that?
That's
I know you
what it
through
was.
the business. And I was like, nope.
Yes, I asked, did I know?
He busted one of those, hey, haven't I met you before? Kind of look.
I was trying to figure it out. And I asked, did I know you through a networking event? And she was like, no. And then I was like, all right, well, that's cool. And then I just started going into conversation. So fast forward 6 months later, I went to Peru to meet her for the first time. So,
Wait a minute. Wait, stop. This Facebook friendship was that serious that you went
We
to
started
Peru.
talking.
He was in love.
The people that was doing the conference with him, that he was part, so they invited me for the conference that they were doing that year. So they denied my visa.
Yeah.
So since they denied my visa, I was like, okay, we're not gonna talk anymore because I'm gonna be wasting my time. I don't know if I can leave my country. So
Right. Yeah.
and then he flew over there.
Yeah, that's true. We tried to request her to come for one of the conferences and we'll be able to meet in person. That didn't work out. So then I went over there in June, and then it wasn't love at first sight because it was just profile pictures back in January when we first met. But when I got there and I met her at the airport, I knew she was the one. And then I went back in September,
October.
October, and we got engaged. And then 2014, January, we got married. She moved here 2015. And now we're 2020, married for 6 years with 2 kids. So that's where we are now.
Wow, that's awesome.
Amazing stories, all of you. They're all interesting. Even the one of me praying and 2 minutes later she shows up. Those are all great stories. Amazing.
All the men are gonna be like, I need faith like Marcus.
Got amazing faith. All the single men, I'm like, pray for me.
Pray for
for
me.
I need a woman in 2 minutes. Well, so glad. Listen, I'm glad that we have had the privilege of getting to know you guys personally and know a little bit about your story. And in light of everything that is going on in our nation, you know, we have uprising and uproar and all this unsettling and a lot of injustice. It was interesting to me as Becky and I began to sit down and talk, and we're saying to myself, I wonder what the struggles are that interracial marriages are dealing with. You know, one feels one way, one feels another. What were some of the things that they were struggling with early on, even with their families? And I can only imagine, because they do exist. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned before, racism is not a skin issue, it's a sin issue. But we make it a skin issue. Mm. And we immediately begin to judge a book by its cover. And I can only imagine what some of your stories meant. So I'm going to ask, you know, the Jacksons, you know, in the beginning when you guys were dating, you know, what were some of the things that you guys had to deal with?
Well, my parents, you guys see my mom. My mom is from Birmingham, Alabama. So they're home of the civil rights. So when I went overseas, I told my mom that I liked this girl. That I was gonna marry this girl. My mom said, "Good, baby, that's great. I love it. Ooh, yay!" So, and I said, "Well, Mama, she's European." I'm like, "Okay, cool, you know." Yeah. I said, "Hold up, she's white." So the conversation said, "What's that?" She said, "What?" She said, "There wasn't no black people over there." So I said, okay. She said, well, baby, I'm going to pray about it. And as long as she's taking care of you and you're in love, I'm all with it. But a lot of fathers found in the family.
Yeah. My parents, they were super easygoing. My mom was super happy. My grandpa, he was an old German soldier. So for him, it wasn't so much the American. I think it was more that he was American soldier. Because he used to drive American soldiers for the German Navy, and so like that was a little hesitant. But once he warmed up to him, he pulled out his U.S. Army driver license, and you know, so he quickly adjusted. Yeah. And
it was basically not race; it was more of being American soldier.
Like for us, like me growing up in Germany or even in Europe, period, like we don't have what we have here, like all these race issues. I grew up with, you know, international people from any race all over the world, you know, like in my class in high school, I had people from Iran, I had an American, I had people from Turkey, people from Spain, from Italy. You know, it was all international, so it wasn't an issue for us. Right. And it's the same like in Germany. You have people from all over the world that are living there, and so it was just never an issue.
It was not in your face like it is in the States. Yeah. Put it like that. It wasn't. It was there, but it was not just up front in your face.
Right.
A little different.
Go ahead.
You still have radical groups in Germany. You still have that, but it's not like an everyday,
right?
An everyday issue,
right?
As much as it is here.
Mm-hmm. Understand? I mean, because when you think about, you know, the German Nazis, and even now how Germany has done everything to kind of say, hey, listen, we made a big mistake with the Jews, and you know, they've even put a museum where for us. It's still in this nation. It's something that we kind of tried to sweep under the rug and be like, we know what happened, but we don't want to talk about it. And
the German kind of did that too. Like you really don't see German flags flying everywhere like you see it here in America because, you know, people are scared to be prideful in their country out of fear to be mistaken, you know,
For one
that
side
it
or
is
other.
something more than just being, you know, prideful in your country. And it's really, there's a really fine line. And, you know, Germans are scared that they kind of overstep with anything, you know, and you feel that a lot in politics too with, you know, how they make their decisions. So there's definitely still, you know, a lot going on too.
Go ahead.
So in that, so talk to us a little bit, and this can be for the whole group, is what were some of the cultural challenges? You know, you have your husband who is American and you're European, and I know even living in the United States, you know, the cultures are different. So talk to us a little bit about some of those cultural challenges.
I got one. I have one. Savannah came home to Birmingham to meet my family for the first time. On the way, we flew into New York and we drove all the way down to Birmingham.
We were the only smart people that rented a car in New York City.
Yeah. So we drove down. On the way there, she was very nervous
I was so nervous.
She heard the conversation. She's like, "What is your mom don't like me?" Blah blah blah. So when we got there, my mom has 11 brothers and sisters, and they got kids and they got kids. So when we pulled to the house, all of them was there.
Well, first of all,
Family reunion.
morning when we got there. It was 2:00 in the morning, so everybody was tired. We were tired. His mom just gave me a hug and said, "Hey, baby, welcome. You know, the bed is ready. I'll see you in the morning." And then the next morning, we woke up and they had a huge party for us.
Yeah, and everybody was there.
Everybody was there. Yeah.
I was the well, she was the only little white girl. But this is the part about the culture. Food is the biggest one. My mom liked pig feet and pickle eggs. So my mom had this big old job, pick her pig feet on the counter. So somebody say, "What's that? Is that a pig feet?" Yeah, that's one of the funniest ones. That's one.
Major culture shock.
Yeah.
Pickles, pig feet.
We had some, you know, some on the other side too. Like they would take me to the flea market or to the mall, and you would just see people like just stop and stare, and you know, like it was really uncomfortable. Like you could tell that they weren't used to seeing, you know, interracial couples together, and it was a shock, and you know, it was funny because
my mom is more like Madea. If you think about it, she's more like Madea. She said, "Well, I don't care if you're black or white. You love my son. I got you." So one day we went to this one prestigious mall. My mom was right behind her. Then Savannah walking in front of my mom, and then all of a sudden, I reached over and kissed Savannah, and then this white lady, she just dropped her jaws, you know, like.
And whatever she was holding in her hand, like she was boxing something, she just dropped it. Like you could see the shock, you know.
And then my mom, my dear, said, "Don't worry, baby," real loud. "Don't worry, baby. I got my pistol in my bag. Don't you worry."
No, because this pistol actually had a name, so she just mentioned it by name. And so later, I'm like, "So who is this? What was she talking about?"
Your mom got a pistol?
And I was like, "Okay."
It was hilarious.
Wow, I love your mom. I love your mom. I'm glad I got a chance to meet her. I know she got my back as well. Rod and Rocio, I know you guys, your story. Tell us a little bit about how when you shared, "Hey, I've got a woman," or Rocio, you said, "Hey, I've got an American man, a gringo in my life." What was that, and what was the reaction that your family gave?
I think talking about how your dad kind of thought about, you know, black people.
Yeah, I mean, the picture that we have over there from the States, at least you were here, is kind of like what movies give you. So the picture that my dad had about black people over there in my country, they were like, okay, it's like it's not like a good image. So he was like, if he's in a good position financially, he's a soccer player. So if he's a soccer player, that means that you are probably the second or third wife, or he has babies all over the place, or things like that. So when I say, hey, I met someone, my brothers and my sister were like, so he's coming, and I was like, yes. So he told me he wanted to meet my dad, and my brothers and my sister were like, nope, don't take him because my dad is kind of racist. And when I told my dad, hey, I met someone and this and that, he told me, oh, that's great. That's great. So, I mean, who's him? Do you have a picture or something? I was like, I don't want to show the picture. So my dad, and I was like, hey, yes, but I need to tell you, he's black. And he was like, why? I mean, so it was really like awkward. And I was like, he really would like to meet you. And he was like, okay. So everybody in my family was like, don't take him. He gonna say something mean. He gonna be disrespectful. So the picture that my dad had in his head of him was like the white tank top and the pants falling, showing the half of his butt and underwear, and kind of like tattoos and everything.
So he's a thug.
The
Your dad thought he was a thug.
Yes. So when he met him, Ron went like with like, what's like,
Okay.
it was like khakis, I think. You had khakis on, and
Like, I was just like dressed casual.
Yes, and like a casual shirt, like with a little sweater, like V-neck and everything. So that was like, my dad was coming like, I'm gonna say something. And when he saw him, was like, oh.
I had on my Mr. Rogers outfit.
Yeah, kind of.
Cardigan and all that.
So when they started talking, he saw that he was not this like thug that he thought. So he immediately asked him, what are your intentions, this and that. So when he say, I want to marry her, he say, so you want to take her with you? Like, he was confused. But with all that, I think that he really liked him. He said that, yes, I like him. So all my family was like in shock that he said yes. And you have my blessing, kind of like, I was like, this is weird. But for friends and family, when I say yes, like this guy is coming and we kind of like dating online, and they were expecting like, oh, he's coming from the States. So when they saw him, they were expecting a white guy. I think so. So when they saw him, we're like, are you sure that he doesn't have like kids around? Are you sure that he doesn't have like different ladies over there? Are you sure? So they were like ideas, like I said, it's like prejudgments, preconcepts on whatever you see. So I think that for the most part, that was with my dad was the biggest fear. But
I think it's sad that, we all had to deal with this. And the first thing before we even meet anyone, we've already got a preconceived notion of who we think they are. We've already created this judgment in our hearts. We're like, wait a minute, I don't want to meet him because you said the word black. He's black. I don't want to meet him. He's a thug. He's a drug dealer. He's a gangster, right? And we put these labels, and thanks, of course, to our media that has done a horrible job, right? We create these labels on people's lives, and thankfully, it's worked in your favor, but it's too bad that we have to deal with this, especially in America. Marcus and Andrea, I know you two, you guys grew up in a church where it was pretty much multiracial, but did you guys feel at any time any pushback, kickback, conversations that were like, are you sure you want, I mean, we always have are you sure you want to marry them? Because everybody goes through that. You always have a friend and you're about to get married. When we were about to get married, I was asked, are you sure? But did you feel
Me too. Wasn't just you.
Did you ever feel at any time that the "are you sure" was more a question of not so much Marcus being the man you want to marry, or Marcus, maybe he's black, or something like that? Have you ever dealt with anything like that?
Yeah, like I had two people specifically within my family, not my immediate, but like within my family. I had someone say to me,
No se oye.
"Oh, can you hear me?"
Yes, go ahead, speak up.
I was saying that like not in my immediate per se, but I've had people in my family, like one of them said, well, why don't you keep it within the race? I don't understand why you want to marry a black man. It's going to mess up the culture. It's going to mess up the race. I just don't understand that. And I was just like, I was always someone who I was going to do what I wanted anyway. So I was like, this is who I love. This is, what I'm attracted to. I don't want to date a Hispanic person. And then I had someone else tell me that I was in sin. They said that I'm unequally yoked because I am dating or I'm gonna get married to a black person. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm unequally yoked, because I'm like, no, it does not say that. And they were arguing with me that it was, and I'm like, okay. So and then my dad was never keen on me dating black guys. I think growing up in the hood, he always perceived them a certain image, and he just grouped them all together. He loves him now, but because he wasn't always in my life, my father, he didn't really get a chance to build that relationship with him in the beginning. So he had to basically take my word for it that no, I have a great man, and besides the fact that he's black, yes, he's a great husband, and it was there were times that he would really have to be convinced, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna sit here and convince you that he's not what you think, like take the time to know him. So
That's great. I'm so sorry that you had people in your life that tried to use Christianity and church and the word to try to lie to you. Whoever told you that, oh my God, keep it in the race, they must not know the fact that, guess what? We came from Adam and Eve, and we're all mixed. Every single one of us. If we were to all take DNA tests, there's not one of us. What are we going to trace it back to? The Garden of Eden? We are all mixed people. That's how God created us, cultures. That's what makes us so different and yet unique at the same time. And then that person that said that you're unequally yoked, a buffoon, to say that. Really a racist buffoon that needs to repent and give their life to Christ, because listen, today you're married, happily married, 14 years, getting ready to have 14 years, and clearly you are not in sin.
Right.
So we just want to ask a couple questions. We know that was how it was for you, but with everything that is happening now in our nation, it's been happening for a while, but now that things are really rising to the surface, what are some of the concerns or fears that you have? For your spouse, for your kids, anybody?
I think before you answer that, even thinking about, the times that we're in, how are you parenting your children through this?
That's
like,
good.
what's the conversations that you're having as a family, so share with us.
Well, I know there's just simple things that I don't let Marcus, and I say yes, I don't let him because I'm afraid, like he's a very athletic person and he loves to run and jog, and I'm like, you are not doing that at night. And I'm just like, there's just certain things that he has to think twice about, and just given everything that has happened, like I just I don't want him to be mistaken for a mistaken identity, or whatever it may be, that he's in the wrong place, wrong time, and I'm not there to be a witness or to defend him or anything like that. So that has been my worry for him. And even, we've talked a little bit about it with our boys, and, they know that they're, mixed with Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Black, and, just speaking to them on a level where they can understand, but also enlightening them about the reality. Like MJ, my oldest, he just started crying and he was terrified. Like he didn't want to leave out the house. I'm like, I'm not telling you this so you can live in fear, but I just want you to know, and just trying to teach him how to love no matter what the color, because you are going to be in classes where you're going to have people who look different than you, and Black comes in all shades, and I have Jude who's a little darker, so that's a whole other issue in itself, colorism within the African American race, and just worrying about at what age will my boys be seen as a threat to society, and so that worries me.
Just to piggyback, I guess what's interesting is that we have to have a conversation that we weren't necessarily prepared for. The world kind of forced it on us.
Yeah.
But it's reality.
Yeah.
You don't realize that it exists until you're confronted by it. And it's most of the time, it's never really the obvious hate. It's the comments like, oh, you know what? Andrea she's gonna marry a Black guy, but he's a good one.
Yeah.
Which means, well, what were you thinking before?
Yeah.
It's the certain things like that. It's the fact that I have to have conversations with my boys, when you're in public, you almost have to put on a front that you're overly educated, or you have your hands out of your pockets on purpose because you're purposefully showing that you're not stealing, or don't worry too much about people who are following you because they're automatically, their eyes are drawn to you opposed to your friends who may be a little bit lighter. It's preparing them for a world that exists. It's not necessarily fair, but how do we cope with that? How do we continue to love people unconditionally, like our church? I mean, our church is so diverse, and our kids have absolutely no idea that world exists.
Yeah.
And now we have to kind of show them that, unfortunately, outside the walls, there are people who don't necessarily live the same way that you do.
Right.
So
It's hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a challenge.
Ron, I see you leaning in.
We just had this conversation this Sunday after church with our girls, and we asked them if they ever felt what do you call it?
Racism.
If they ever felt racism, like if they ever felt that they were treated differently. And both of them said no, and that really kind of made me happy in a way at first, because I remember when Joelle was in kindergarten and we were in Germany on a military installation. Joelle coming home one day when I picked her up from school, she said, well, Mom, my friend so-and-so said that Black men should only be married to Black women. And I'm like, you guys are 5. They're 5. Like, why are we having this conversation? And I was so upset at the time. And, I kind of told her, I kind of explained to her that, people are being raised differently. And I didn't make a big deal out of it. We didn't confront, not the teacher, not the school. We just kind of let it slide. And instead we prayed about it. Yeah. And I thank God that to this day, we haven't had any other issues with this. And we have lived all over the world. Right. Pretty much. And, we have lived on military installations where they would tell us, hey, don't go out this gate or don't go out that gate. And, coming from Germany, I'm already dealing with, poisonous spiders and poisonous snakes that I'm not used to. And now you're adding this into the equation. It was scary, but, I'm glad that God kind of, protected us and that we haven't really dealt with this. When it comes to our kids, and
as our kids got older, our kids are a little older now, and they're actually eventually going to go out into the world. So we have to let them define to us, what is racism? What do you think racism is? Right. And they gave us their part of racism. And then we have to break it down and say, how do you know someone is being racist to you, against you, or just giving you negative comments. Not
Yeah.
everything is not going to be about race.
Right.
It can be about your clothes. It can be about your hair, Joanne's hair. So how do you define the line? So we talked about those lines, and I think they both have a clear understanding of the two difference.
Right.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, just like I grew up, just to love people, no matter what color and shapes and sizes. And that's something that we always taught our kids.
Right.
We just love people.
Yeah. So we in here from our homes, we always teach character and spirit. So both of them so aside. Your spirit is jacked up, that means your character is jacked up. So God is in your spirit. So your character
should show that.
Should show that. So if someone is attacking you, take a moment and check your character, your spirit, and then you engage that person. If you can't, you bring it to daddy.
No, I'm not gonna bring it to mommy, and they know. They know.
Bring it to daddy. We're gonna check that. But that's what we do. That's
So good.
That's good.
So
That's
good.
good. Ron, I see you were leaning in a minute. Come on, Sherry, tell us your heart.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that our kids will have a different upbringing than what I had. Because I lived in a predominantly black neighborhood. The only time I saw white people was either if they were the police or when I went to school on the other side of town. I was fortunate enough to have grades to get into a better school that wasn't in my district. So I experienced, some things. I've been, called the N-word. I've seen people treat me differently because of that. I've seen cliques of people talk down on us because we weren't, in a economical status to be in the clique. I've seen all of that. But I feel for our kids, because of where we are now, we are able to put them in more diverse, environments. So I think they're going to have it like more of a subliminal type of racism, more covert, like what, Marcus was saying. It's just more comments. I don't think they'll get as much as the discrimination as what we would see, back in the days where I'm from. So for our kids, I think the main thing we have to do is, because our kids are mixed, so they look mixed. Tyson is of lighter skin and Taylor is of darker skin. So they'll hear the comments, and sometimes the comments may offend them because it may be about their features. And typically what happens when you put people in a diverse situation, everyone looks different, but sometimes you can feel condescended if someone talks about your features as if they're not as good as theirs. So what we do is we encourage, our kids, we build them up. That's all we do. We build them up. So when they get out in the world and someone says something about the way they look, it's like, what are you talking about? I know I'm this. I know what I am. And they won't spew that type of, hate or that type of response back to the other person. It just be like, hey, this person said this about me, but I know what I am. Now, as far as us having to educate them, there are going to be situations where they may have, racism, like confront them in a way that they're just not used to. Tyson's only 3, so therefore I haven't had to have a talk with him yet about that. And honestly, I want to protect him from that talk as long as I can until he comes to me and lets me know what happened, and I can educate him on that, because I don't want to put a precognition of what he should think about a situation. I want him to experience the situation, and then I can educate him on the situation, because if I put all these like preconcepts in his head, he's going to go out looking for it. So he may mistake someone's comment for racism, and that's not always the case. So I want him to go experience things, and then he can bring it back to me, and I can just educate him. You know what? Hey, that wasn't actually racism. That was more just ignorance, So I don't want him to blanket everything with racism, although, there's a lot of working parts of it. But I want him to be able to have an open mind so he can experience these things and not necessarily, make an opinion based on what I put in his head about, what's going to happen to him.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we are, as far as, with our kids right now. We're just in the building and uplifting phase, because Tyson's 3, Taylor's 3 months, so they have no idea what's going on. And just like Marcus said, the kids at the church, they're so diverse. All of them are friends. The kids at my son's school is diverse. It's Black, white, Spanish, so they don't have any idea that they're different. But as they get older, they'll be conscious of it, and that's when we're going to make sure that we educate properly once we get to that point.
I think when we're talking about having this the diverse walking the room.
Go ahead.
I think something that was shocking for me was that in my country, even when you can have racism over there too, I was not a minority. So you don't feel it in the same way that you feel it here. So coming here and realizing that I'm a minority and I can be discriminated because of that, it was shocking. But it was more shocking when all these things start happening. I was on social media and I remember asking him some things about it, and he was like, hey, did you see the news and this and that? So he kind of had to have the talk with me.
The talk.
So is what to do if police stop us. So that was like, you can talk about having that conversation with your kids, but when you have your wife coming from another place and you have to have the talk with her, that it was like, and especially if you are Hispanic, and someone tells you, if someone says this, you don't say nothing. And I'm like, why? I have a lot of things to say about that. So he was like, if police stop us, this is what I don't move in this way. Or if they say, get out of the car, I'm going to get out of the car. And I was like, but why? If you didn't do anything. So if they say, go on your knees, I'm going to go on my knees. If they say this, and if they hit me, you don't do anything. And I was like, well, when you get to the point, if they hit me, I'm going to be in the police officer neck. So he was like, no, you don't do that. And I was like, but that's unfair. Yeah. So he was telling me, this is how this works. And this is what we have to tell our kids at some point. So that's where reality hit me. And I was like, this is not okay. So especially if you think of the fact that it's 2 minorities in a car, and then you start but I think that after that conversation, I start feeling more like anxious about police stopping me. And they stopped me like a month after.
Yeah.
So he told me, you just stay calm and this and that. But it was just like, I think that in that moment is when things start hitting, reality hit me. But then when all this happened, I think I reached out to Andrea, and it was like, how are you feeling about this? And we started talking about that, because it's like, we have to talk like how you feel, you have like, we're going through the same thing. I mean, are you scared for your husband? I'm praying for your husband, you pray for mine. So we were talking about that. But it's just like, I think it's that feeling as a mom that is just what Andrea say, at what point my kid becomes a threat for others, fast from being cute to be a threat, and I think it's a lot of things, not just when you go to racist comment or something like that. It's more like microaggressions sometimes. When I was pregnant and people say like, oh, like, I hope your baby has your hair. And I was like, what is wrong with my husband's hair? You know, or, oh, but you're going to make the baby lighter. You know, and people think it's cute.
Yeah.
People think that they are just like being nice. And I don't think it's a bad intention.
Right.
In many cases, it's not the intention to be offensive, you know, but it is. And I think that when you have like kids like ours, like they are in an interracial marriage, like it's like, I think they're gonna have to deal with the fact that, oh, you know, you are like dark, but you have an accent when you talk. It's like those type of things. Yes, and people make you feel like a pet. You know, it's like, can you say it again?
Isn't that what makes us beautiful and unique?
Yeah,
You think about that God orchestrated your marriages.
Mm-hmm.
God brought you two together for a reason. God said, I'm bringing these two people together because I'm going to do something brand new, regardless of what people say or think. And I think that what we're dealing with, and we're going to always deal with this is why I'm so glad, Ron, to hear what you said, you know, and Marcus and you guys, that we're going to train our kids. We're going to teach our kids how to love people no matter what, because we can't change people. There's going to always be ignorant people in the world.
Yeah.
There are going to always be racist people because it's a heart condition.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can raise our kids to grow up in this world and be aware of who they are, and wait a minute, before I'm black, I'm a son of God. I'm the daughter of the King.
Yeah.
And then I thank God for the race that I have, that I'm, the culture that I have, the food that I have, the people that I celebrate. Once they begin to know who they are in Christ, listen, no matter what anyone says, they will not be moved. But we have to raise our kids this way.
Build them up.
We
Yeah.
have to build them. They're going to grow up in a society and in a world. We won't be able to shelter them as much as we can. We're going to shelter them and love them with the love
It's
of
a sin,
Christ.
so there's going to be
Right.
cruelty, you know, wherever. But building, I love what you said, Ron, about just telling them who they are. And that's what we should do as Christian parents. We build our kids and we say, no, you are fearfully and wonderfully
Come
made.
on.
You're the head and not the tail. You're the apple of God's eye. You're the son. You're the daughter of the Most High God. You know, we build them up. You are beautiful. Everything about you. You have the mind of Christ. Whatever it is, God has a purpose and a plan. When we build those up, those are things that are seeds that are inside of them that help them to combat when those situations do arise. And so I love that you guys shared that. That's so good.
Absolutely. So important. I'll never forget when I was in conversation with Pastor Damon Moore from City Place Church, and I love what he said. He said, you know, we get to this place in especially in America where because of what people and others have said, we admittedly discriminate against others. And he goes, it's exactly what the enemy did to Adam and Eve in the garden.
Yeah.
When God came looking for Adam and Eve, what did he say? He said, who told you?
Yeah.
Who told you you were naked? Who told you you were in sin? And at some point, we have to help our kids understand, who told you that black wasn't pretty?
Come
Who
on.
told you
Yeah.
that brown wasn't beautiful,
Yeah.
right? Who told you that being mixed was something? No, we have to really raise our kids the God way. And I promise, listen, they're going to become men and women of God that I think what their purpose is going to help the healing to a people that
Yes.
need it a lot.
Yes.
And so, listen, folks, here's what I want to tell all of you. We're not going to deny the fact that we understand that interracial marriages do have struggles. But what marriage doesn't?
Well,
What marriage doesn't?
sure.
Like when we signed up, you think about it, when we signed up to raise our kids, you know how hard it is to live in the world that we live in and raise our kids at a standard that says, you know what, you're not going to watch that because I said so. And you're not going to wear those clothes and you're not going to go there and say those things. It's hard enough to raise kids that way. I can only imagine how hard it is for divorced parents to raise their kids and for single moms. So it's difficult, but guess what? It's just, it's right, it's God's way, and God blesses it.
Yes, he does.
So listen, I thank God that you guys are in our lives, that you guys are in our church. Really, we thank God because you know what other people might look upon and disdain, we celebrate because when I get to come to your house, I get to eat food from two different places. Okay? I get you guys are a
That's his
special
love
restaurant.
language.
No, food is my love language. Like if I can get German Alabama food, which I don't know what that is, but that'd be awesome. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's amazing. And people are going to be shocked. The people who feel, no, we should stick to our own race. Well, we get to heaven and look around. People from I love the scripture where God says he gathers the nations to himself.
Yeah.
Speaks of all of us. And so as we get ready to close, I want to ask those of you, if you had anything to say, a word of encouragement, maybe to a young interracial couple, or maybe something that you would feel, hey, I really want people to know this about us, what would it be?
I would say for us, educating yourselves on each other's culture will force you to grow. The biggest thing for us is she comes from a collectivistic culture and I come from an individualistic culture.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm an only child on top of that. And she comes from a family of 5 brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do we have the cultural differences with how we work with each other and how we work with our families, we have those challenges based on just our upbringing in general, but we learn from each other. We continue 7 years in, we still have struggles, but we still learn and we see different perspectives. And it affects, just our daily life. So I would say just embrace, the differences and learn from them so you can educate yourself, when it comes to that.
And when you say educate yourself, I think that what I say when I didn't understand that I was a minority when I came here. So I think that for you, I think that I can remember who we're talking with, and it was like, you will never fully understand immigration as I will never fully understand racism.
Yeah.
So, you have to learn how to carry each other's burdens.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to be discriminated because of that. People going to look at me different. And I understand that people are going to look at him different. But it's like, if you educate yourself about the issues, then you can learn how to fight against them. Mm-hmm. First, yes, obviously, prayer. But you have to educate yourself in order to have that uncomfortable conversations, with all the people. But this type of conversations. Yeah. So I think that, yes, educate yourself, because you cannot fight for something that you don't know or don't understand.
That's good. That's so good. Rocio, it sounds like your family has a lot more in common with John Jackson's family down in Alabama. Anyone else? What would be your last? What do you want to encourage someone with?
Well, for us, it's all about boundaries and respect. I've been with this young lady so long. I think she is my how I want to put it. She is my yang to my yin, or how you want to say it. Yeah. When I'm without her, I don't think I would have made it through the military, because I'm kind of a little hothead.
Is that well?
So she's my calm, and like I say, different religions, different background, different cultures. At one point, we didn't know how that was going to look. We didn't even think about it. We just went with the spirit, and
we just let it, let it flow and let it guide us.
And let it guide us. And to this day,
you definitely have to be open. So if I have to give any encouragement, just be open, and don't be set in any ways. Just be open and receive.
Right. And remember those boundaries. I don't care how long you've been married or how long you've been together, you do have boundaries in your marriage. Certain things you shouldn't do, won't do, say or do like that. But
we might storm off in different directions, and I grab my book and he grabs
the remote.
No, he grabs the gardening tools and start ripping out bushes. But we would never use any like hurtful words or something towards each other.
that's
You know,
a boundary.
that's just something that we said that's not even an issue for
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
And
Right.
you know, like we set those boundaries early on.
Right.
And it's been working well.
Yeah. As for our house, we serve the Lord.
Come on, Marcus and Andrea, closing
Love that.
remarks.
So, honestly, I think what helped my wife and I, and it wasn't initial. It didn't happen the first year, not even after the first 7th. I think it's something you grow into is you embrace what they are, what your spouse is, and what other people are. Everybody has their own truth. Everybody has their own bias based on how they've grown up, how they're raised, their culture. Andrea embracing my family and me embracing hers. It's a work in progress, and it's going to be the same with any relationship.
Yeah.
But that being said, when you have the filter of the ultimate truth that doesn't change, when you have the love of Christ in your heart,
Come on.
it helps to filter out what's reality and what's not. It helps you to kind of keep your focus when it's very easy to flow on one side or the other.
Right.
God will always keep you centered. He will always keep you correct. And as long as you have him in your heart, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Andrea thinks. It doesn't matter what I think. It only matters what he thinks.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's how we're going to try and raise our boys. More than anything is you're Christian first. Put on his armor, his righteousness, and his covering, and you'll be able to filter through anything in this world.
Right.
Awesome.
Very
Awesome.
good. This is so good. Thank you so much for just talking with us and having a conversation with us today, you know, about your marriage, how you met, your family, and how you're raising your family, even in this time. You know, I just thank you for that. I know that it's going to be encouragement to those that are watching, so I appreciate you, but we're going to pray this time. So Father, I just thank you for this time. I thank you, Lord, just for the vulnerability in this conversation today, God. I thank you, Lord, just for the love and your grace, Father, as we talk today, Father. And I just pray that you would cover each one of these couples, Father, that you would cover their homes and cover their families,
Yes.
Father. I thank you that you just give them the word of the Lord in every season, Father, as they're raising their children, as they're growing in their marriages, Father, even in the time and seasons that we currently are in our country, Father. I thank you that you guide them by your spirit. You guide them by your truth. You guide them by your grace, Father God. And I thank you for your protection over them, Lord. And I thank you that they are blessed and they're going and they're coming, Lord. So I just thank you for that. And even for every person that's watching today, and maybe they're struggling, Lord, and maybe they're in an interracial marriage today, Father, and maybe they've had some challenges. I just pray, Father, that this would help them to start a conversation in their homes, that you would bring healing to them, God. I thank you for this opportunity in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen.